Hey, hello, everyone. Welcome to this InfoReady Peer Spotlight webinar on undergraduate research programs, specifically running a dynamic undergraduate research program, which our two panelists today from the University of California at Irvine and the University of South Dakota are doing. Big welcome to our panelists, and I'll introduce them in a moment, and to all of you who are joining us. Thank you all for your time today. I'm your host, Carlos Moncada, Director of Client Services at InfoReady. And before we get to our panelists, I just want to go over the logistics and agenda for this panel today. And I also want to tell you a little bit more information about InfoReady. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with InfoReady for undergraduate research or in general, the InfoReady platform is a full service platform. You do not need IT support to help you manage your programs and processes. And you can create your own templates or use InfoReady templates to launch your opportunities and form collection processes and whatever it might be really quickly. You can manage an unlimited number of opportunities, be they competitive opportunities or non-competitive opportunities, and have multiple administrators in the system managing it, and having visibility as well. On top of that, the platform allows you to centralize all of the data, improve your data management, provide oversight. And one of the great things about that is that you're not doing double entry or organizing all the documents together or having put together spreadsheets, because the data is being added in there. And we've built a platform where the reviewers, if you have reviewers, can see what's been assigned to them, and you don't have to put together a packet for them, or the applicants can go in and see their status and all of that great stuff. Another thing, InfoReady allows you to improve engagement and communication with all your stakeholders, be they applicants, letter writers, reviewers, whomever it might be. There's a lot less manual involvement in having to connect, be the glue, if you will, to connect everyone. Lastly, fast implementation that happens in weeks, not months. We know, some software out there can take you over a year, and that's not the case with InfoReady. So great stuff here. Now, moving on to the agenda, not the agenda, but ways people are using InfoReady. Really flexible platform, core concepts of collecting forms and being able to route them through a workflow for review, approval, and decision-making happens all over campus. And these are real-world active use cases that all the institutions we work with are using InfoReady for in some form or manner. So it covers things across the institution, all different types of units, all different types of needs, really flexible tool. And if you have questions about it, send us a message to our email address, which we'll show at the end, and we'd gladly share this document and talk about the use cases. Now, moving on to our panelists, two wonderful panelists who have agreed to share their experiences with InfoReady and how they're managing their operations for undergraduate research at their respective institutions. So we have Sharon Parks from UC Irvine and Kevin O'Kelly from the University of South Dakota. I have some bios I'm going to read here, and they might be embarrassed because these are great bios. You two, great bios from you two. So Sharon Parks is the Director of Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, or UROP, at University of California Irvine. And UROP provides recognition and funding to UCI undergraduate students from all academic disciplines in support of research or creative activities, and hosts the campus-wide annual undergraduate research symposium each May. I know that's a huge operation. Sharon holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a master's degree in higher education from Indiana University, Bloomington. Upon graduation from UCLA, she spent 9 months working in London, England, and traveling in Europe, where she became passionate about supporting and encouraging students to gain broader perspectives and experiences through study, work, internship, and research abroad programs. Sharon is entering her 27th year at UCI, first working in the study abroad office, then running academic internship programs in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento, and has been in her current position since October 2020. So Sharon, thanks for joining us. And now description bio of Kevin O. Kelly, who's the Assistant Vice President of Research Compliance at the University of South Dakota. And you might be wondering, wait, that doesn't say undergraduate research, but I'm going to tell you a little more in here in this bio about that. Well, Kevin has a BS in Environmental Studies from San Jose State University and an MA in Psychology from the University of South Dakota. He spent most of his career in the electrochemical and chemical manufacturing industries, both as a production manager and as an environmental health and safety manager. He recently returned to academia as the Assistant Vice President for Research at the University of South Dakota, with responsibility for both research compliance and oversight of their undergraduate research programs. See, told you I was going to explain it. So now I'm going to turn this over to our panelists. We have some great questions, and I think they've got some great stuff to share with you. So first, let's start with Sharon. Sharon, can you tell us a little bit more about your role and your general areas of responsibility when it comes to the UROP? A little bit more about the size of UCI and some of those key data points.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So University of California is one of the University of California schools. I think I'm actually not sure what the count is. I think we've got 10 now. And we're at about 35,000 undergraduate students. It's a Research One institution, so very large, and obviously research is a primary factor of the university. UROP provides recognition and funding to undergraduate students who want to get involved in faculty mentored research. And so we really are trying to build up the undergraduate research culture at UCI. Of course, faculty and graduate students, that's a no-brainer, but to actually integrate undergraduate students into that system. And so in addition, the two main roles we have are we run calls for proposals. So we've got 3 times a year where undergraduate students who have a faculty mentor, and we also have advising and support, so we can help to match students with faculty mentors, but we don't run research programs ourselves. We help to connect students with opportunities. And so once they are connected, they can apply for recognition and funding, submitting a proposal. And so we do use InfoReady to run those calls for proposals and review the applications and select the students and provide funding. And so we do have this last year, about 1,550 students were awarded through InfoReady. And that represented about 580 student projects. We offer both individual and group projects. So that's why the numbers of students are higher than the number of projects, because several of them are larger group projects. And then we also offer an opportunity for the students to present their research at our campus-wide annual undergraduate research symposium. So that's held each May. Of course, during COVID, we went online. Came back in person for the first time last year, and that was still coming out of COVID, so our numbers were a little bit lower. I think this year we had over 1,000 students present. We had over 2,000 people attend, so faculty, staff, parents, community. So it's a really large event where we had both poster sessions and oral presentations, and we used InfoReady's Engagement Hub to highlight those presentations online and kind of serve as a program for the event. And then one of our big goals is to offer more programming to support the students. And so while we've always had some workshops and things like that, we are creating some both programming to address needs in terms of diversity needs. We've got a research discovery program where we're targeting students who are low income first generation college students to try and get them involved into research, whereas they might not have otherwise, and then provide more opportunities for connection, and we're still building that out. So I don't know if does that cover kind of what you were hoping for, or is there anything I didn't touch?
Yeah, I think that sets a good foundation for everyone to understand where you're coming from as we have this discussion. Thanks, Sharon.
Sure.
Kevin, similar question to you.
Yeah, so hello, I'm from the University of South Dakota, which is a much smaller school than UC Irvine, where we have about 5,000 undergraduates. But just like Sharon, we are passionate about developing research in our undergraduate gang, because, well, obviously we know the benefits of being engaged in research as an undergraduate. We have an issue with, we're a very rural state, and we have an issue with graduation rates. And anyway, so we're trying to engage our students in academia at an earlier age than we're just waiting until they apply to grad school. So we do many of the same things that Sharon does. We have competitive grants, travel grants, research grants. We have the poster presentation project that Sharon has. Most schools have that these days in the springtime. We do that. We manage all of that through InfoReady. But just a tiny bit of background, I could talk about this all day, like we all could. But we still have a pretty siloed bunch of research programs. The medical school has an undergraduate research program. The chemistry REU has a program. We have addiction studies in the health sciences. So there are a variety of different research opportunities for undergraduates. And by bringing them together under one application umbrella of InfoReady, we've seen, I know this sounds like a sales call or sales pitch, but we've seen a lot of success in that the different departments had different web pages and different application processes, and the links were broken, or their due dates were last year's due date, they didn't update it, and that sort of thing. And now by having it all under one location, the application process, we're able to better monitor the applications for those different siloed programs. I mean, we don't run the medical school undergraduate research program. We don't run the chemistry REU. We just help manage some of the application processes and the advertising for it and that sort of thing. One of the benefits of doing this, having a centralized location for this, is now I know everybody that's involved in any undergraduate research program. I know their names, and we invite them. We have picnics. We invite all of the people from the chemistry and biology and med school and the psychology programs, the addiction. They all get together for a picnic, and we give them T-shirts. It's a big deal. We have weekly seminars. They're voluntary, but we have weekly seminars where we talk about how to do a lit review, lit search. We talk about how to write an abstract. We have a variety of different topics that all of these students are invited to come to, and we feed them, because if you feed them, they're more likely to come. So InfoReady helps us know who this cohort of undergraduate researchers consists of, and provide them with support. So our office provides support for these different, for the students, really. We don't support the faculty so much, because they're already passionate. They wouldn't be involved if they weren't already totally on board. But we support the students. We make sure they've got access to the wellness center, our gym, in case they're not a USD student. We give the passes to our local pool, and we keep them involved in the community. We're a smaller community than Irvine. We're a small town with the college is half of our population, and we engage the students socially, particularly if they're from a different school just here for the summer. So anyway, we do much the same as Sharon does, and we find that having a central location that all of these different programs have to go through is useful. For example, if all the money comes from my office, so if you're a chemistry REU and you're providing funds for something, they don't have to give it out. It all comes through us. So that makes them, they know they have somebody to report to. They have to it gives them some kind of a central place to go to when they have questions all during the summer or during the school year. Sometimes students are shy to ask their faculty mentors stupid questions. They're not shy to ask me. So, and they all know me. So anyway, that's it.
Oh, that's funny. They all know you. It's important though, because you're building relationships at the same time, right? Undergraduate research is considered a high impact practice that increases student success rates, right? So it's important to engage with them on multiple levels. Great to hear that you're involved in so many different ways with them. Now, you've both used InfoReady successfully. You were talking about centralizing some of the administrative and support functions. How hard was it to get people to buy in to doing that? Because people like having ownership of their processes or their programs, but at the same time, let's be honest, some of it's tedious, right? Managing an application program of some sort. So, Sharon, how about we start with you?
I was actually going to let Kevin take that one because in our situation, it's a little different. We're not as centralized. We're kind of additive. So students may be applying to other research programs directly through bio, through their school, and we just manage the funding process that we offer. So really the only, for us, there's been no change. UROP has a long history of doing this. We've been around for 30, I think 2 years. So for us, the issue was we had a very old database, 17 plus years old, that our tech support could no longer support. And so we kind of had the functionality already, but we were unable to continue to use what we used to have. So for us, we didn't really have to get buy-in. We just went with InfoReady after vetting it and everything. But so it's not quite the same situation, but I think Kevin probably can speak to that one.
Well, I don't want to date myself, but we were using FileMaker Pro, and IT wasn't going to support it anymore. So we had to change. And so the person who had the job before me changed it to a Google Doc, which they would import into Excel, every application, and save it as a PDF, and then email it. It was very cumbersome. So for us to do the work, and my program assistant, Linda, isn't on this call because she's managing the IRB on the other phone. She found this to be very much easier to manage than all of those different mechanisms. She'd have a spreadsheet. John Smith, does he have with a row here? Does he have a mentor letter? Does he have approval of the chair? Is the dean signed off? She had to keep track of every single one on this massive Excel spreadsheet. And now she doesn't have to do that anymore. So it wasn't a matter of getting the departments to buy into this. We just created it. Linda created these applications and then said, here's your new method. We're a small school. I go to the Dean's Council, I'll say, here's your new method. Okay. They just went along with it.
Well, it's great to hear you didn't have to go through a big struggle to make that happen.
Well, anything beats saving an Excel spreadsheet as a PDF and emailing it. And then you have to print it, sign it, and scan it. I'm not kidding. Okay. So, it was a pretty easy sell.
Oh, great. Well, and for those who don't know, in InfoReady, you can set up different steps for stages of the approval or the review process, and even automate some of the assignments in that review process. So I'm sure Linda over at USD was really happy to have that.
Yeah, and I'll just say, even for ours, because ours was a homegrown system that was based off of an Access database, which luckily I had familiarity with that, but obviously it's very old. And my first year on, I had to manage the process, and it was extremely painful. And so I was also very glad when we transitioned, even though, there's always, transitioning is always a process and there's growing pains there. But then once we got there, so much easier. So.
Well, I'll say the other thing that has been successful for us is embedding the questionnaire or the questions in the InfoReady thing. So you don't have to have an attachment that you circulate around by InfoReady. All of the questions, and by the way, ours are very simple forms. It's your name, abstract, and a place for a mentor's letter of recommendation. They're very simple, very straightforward, and then the routing. So we didn't have to attach your abstract here. You just have to copy and paste it right into the document that gets then forwarded. So it is the reason nobody complained is because it's easy.
The easy always makes it so easy to adopt. Like if someone makes
Carlos, one more thing. I just want to say the system we had before was somewhat of the tail wagging the dog. You know, whatever was good for the office is what we made the faculty do, and that's wrong. We're a faculty support group. We don't do research. We're supposed to be supporting researchers. So making them jump through all these hoops and making barriers was wrong. It was just philosophically wrong. Our job is to make it easier for them. So.
No, that's a great point to make. Because I think Sharon mentioned her unit's additive to some point. Everyone is collectively, everyone is trying to support the undergraduate research process, right? And you want to make everyone successful in what they're doing, and not make it hard on them, right? Making it a miserable experience, never wins people over, and you never get buy-in that way. So on that note, you had existing programs and processes. When you switched to InfoReady, were there ever any initiatives or activities you wanted to include in your programs that you weren't able to do before, but that InfoReady allowed you to do, like collecting follow-up forms from undergrads to better understand what the outcomes of their undergrad research is, for example?
So that's a great future goal that we've not achieved yet. I think for us, it's maybe not so much, we haven't yet done, well, with InfoReady, a lot of new things, but we've been able to do more. So just to give an example, in the old antiquated system, we could not change it. We could not create new programming and a new competition, or, it was like everything was set, and we didn't have the support to do it, and we couldn't be nimble with it. And so one of our goals was, so this research discovery program that I mentioned, it's a mentor-mentee program where we have 25 graduate student mentors and 100 undergraduate student mentees, and we matched them, and we did that application process through InfoReady. And I was able to create it, in hours and roll it out, and that would be impossible in the old system. So we were able to support new programming that we wouldn't be able to support in the same way without it, right? And then there's the other piece of it, which is the engagement hub, which I think we'll share in a little bit. But that's how we're highlighting our students and opportunities online. And so we're still thinking creatively about how we can best use that to highlight the things that our students are doing for others, to just gain awareness, but also then to connect the students to more opportunities. And that's something that when we thought about whether or not, because it's kind of like you could just do InfoReady, or you could also add on Engagement Hub. And when we were talking with our tech support, they're like, oh yeah, that would take way too much person power and way too many resources for us to develop anything like that for you. So, so that's why we went with it. So I would say those, and then I guess related to that is with our undergraduate research symposium, we collect not only the abstracts, but also the assets that the students create. So for the oral presentations, they made videos of their oral presentations. And for the poster sessions, they made digital posters. And we collected those through InfoReady to post then on our engagement hub. And then it was a dual presentation. So they had their assets online that people could look at and that they can refer back to and link to. And then they did their live presentations at the symposium. So that was something we didn't have that capability before. It used to always be just the live event.
Thanks, Sharon. Kevin, anything to add?
Nothing really related to undergraduate research that we couldn't do until recently. That I think you probably know, Carlos, that we're planning on using InfoReady for things other than undergraduate research as well. It has applications beyond undergraduate research awards. We're exploring those. Linda, I keep talking about Linda, referring to her. She's not here right now, but she's very happy with the conditional logic abilities you guys have recently added. That makes a world of difference in her life. But yeah, our undergraduate research application process is very simple. We started it, like you said, very quickly, and it launched easily. Our poster presentation system is not really competitive. If a faculty member says you're in, that's it. And that's pretty easy for us. So no, there's nothing that we couldn't do with the antiquated method. It's just that Linda would have died because this is much easier.
Well, so as you mentioned, you've brought up Linda a couple of times. I kind of want to pivot to staffing here. There's, everyone's very passionate. You just said, Linda would have figuratively died, right? And so can you tell us a little bit more of, how your units are staffed and what kind of efforts they go through to help manage the program?
Sure, I'll go first because mine is quick and easy, because we only give out about 60 awards a year of these travel grants and research grants. Like I said, we're a small school, so it's very straightforward. We have 300 or 400 every year in the poster presentation. Again, I know Sharon's got a coliseum filled with them, but ours are the numbers are relatively low. But we used to have, in the old system, we had to have a grad student, a half-time grad student working just to keep track of where the different applications were and the lifestyle. We're waiting for Dr. Jones to sign it, and he forgot about it, that sort of thing. And now we don't have that at all. Linda manages these things as kind of in her spare time. She's our research compliance coordinator who manages our other protocols, our animal protocols, our human subject protocols. She manages those, and she picks these up just kind of in her spare time because they're not labor intensive anymore. We don't have that grad student anymore. Linda just manages these because, as I said, it's 60 or 70 applications a year in 9 months, and the workload on her is relatively insignificant. She just has to forward them to the reviewers, make sure they're complete, forward them to the reviewers. The rubric is built in. I would say she probably spends 4 hours a week managing it. It's very minor for us, for our little school.
Yeah, and just for us, so in our office, we've got a team of 5, including me. So we've got 3 advisors and 1 administrative coordinator. The administrative coordinator does a lot of the management of it. One of our advisors is actually the one who, he and I both together will create the applications. And so I would just say, when anything's new, it does take time and effort to figure it out, right? Like not only learning the system, but then learning the best way to use the system. And one of the things I really appreciate about InfoReady is that their team is very eager and willing to provide the support and like the brainstorming. So oftentimes I would come and say, this is what I want to do. What's the best way to achieve that goal? And then they'll bounce ideas, you can do this or this, but I would recommend this. And so we build out our form. So there is some startup costs, right? But once you get it and you've got something set, you've got a template, then it's very easy to replicate. So that's really quick and easy. And then really kind of similar to what Kevin was saying, our administrative coordinator will review, certain things about the application, make sure it's complete and, data is correct, email addresses, whatever is correct. And then it gets routed to our faculty board, and they're the ones who do the work of reviewing them all. So luckily that's not on my team, that's our faculty advisory board. And then it comes back to us and we send out the selection and notification emails, but that all goes out through the system, one click. So that's good. And then the other point I wanted to make is we do have a team of 4 undergraduate students, what we call ambassadors. And so their role is to support the office, but also to get out and provide outreach and mentorship to students and encourage them. They do a lot of presentations and outreach and things like that. And at crunch times, especially leading into symposium, we sometimes put them to task on some administrative things related to either the InfoReady calls for proposals or our engagement hub. And it is very intuitive. So it's very easy to train them on what to do and sit down and they can figure it out like that. So that's one of the things I've appreciated is it's not a complex system to learn. And like for the access databases, for me, I've been doing it for 27 years, so I know it very well. But when I've tried to train other staff on access, it's very difficult, a high learning curve, right? So this is not that way. So that's really beneficial.
Great. Thanks, Sharon. No, both of you mentioned undergraduate students. Kevin said they're not using them anymore, but so this is more a question for Sharon. How are you selecting which undergraduate students are going to help your unit?
We actually don't use InfoReady for that process. And honestly, now that you're asking me, I think it's just it's a small cohort, it's a small number of students. So we just we have a small Google Doc application, and I think we've just replicated it, right? So we just recruit out to anyone who's done the program, and we actually just hired 4 of them for next year. So yeah, so we just have a basic application. We ask a few questions, a few essay questions, and they apply, and then we just review it within our office. But yeah, that could be something we could do through InfoReady. It's just such a small number of students that it didn't occur to me.
Well, so something to think about for later. But so the target pool of undergraduate student workers come from students who have participated in undergraduate research in the past, right?
Exactly.
Either that are really eager and interested in this.
Yeah. So historically, it's always been we call them UROP fellows if they've participated in our programs, and it has been limited to UROP fellows. Then we just this year for the first time, because we've got this research discovery program that's more like an early outreach program. So these students primarily are freshmen and they haven't done research yet, but they participated in our mentor-mentee program. We did open it up to those students this year. So we did one of the 4 is one of these students who hasn't done research yet, but she's gone through our mentorship program. She's learned a lot about it and very eager to get involved, in research. And we felt like that was a good way to connect with some students, to, open access to students who, again, low income, first generation college students who maybe don't think it applies to them, who maybe are working a lot of other jobs. I mean, that is one of the reasons she hasn't done research, is she has been working a lot and she hasn't had the time to do it. And so we really felt like that would be a great way to identify with students that attract students who may identify with her into the program.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, this is going to have an impact on her undergraduate experience. Huge impact.
Yeah,
that's great to hear. Excuse me. So here's a related question about how your staff and how your operations are going. We had a pandemic recently. Still feeling the impacts of the pandemic. So how have the transitions from pre-pandemic to pandemic time to post-pandemic time gone in your units? Sharon alluded to some changes, but
Well, I mean, I think we're still figuring it out. Like, there's still all the after effects of it. I do think, with our symposium, it was great this last year that we really feel like it's the first time it kind of came back up to pre-pandemic levels of numbers of students presenting and kind of the scope of it and the feel. We have it in our Brent Events Center, which is our large where we have our basketball games and things. And that's the first time we've had it in that location. So it was it felt very big and that was very exciting, I think, for everyone. I would just say one of the challenges that we're facing that I'd be curious to know across other institutions, but it's a whole new world now of things being recorded and offered online. And so when we do, because like Kevin was saying, we're here to support students. And so we offer a lot of workshops and advising and all these. And now we are offering them in a variety of modalities. Like, is it in person? Is it online? Is it a recorded workshop? Is it asynchronous? All these things. And we are finding that a lot of students are not coming to our in-person events. And we're questioning, how are we building community if that's not happening? And is this a temporary thing, or is this just the new normal? So for us, I think not so much with the research itself, I think that's pretty consistent, but in terms of building the programming and support and community for students, I feel like, and I don't want to say in some ways, having things online is a good thing because it does open access to students who maybe do work a lot and can't come to our events in person. But I think we're grappling a little bit with how do we do this? How do we manage this? And that's the biggest change that I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's repeating itself on every campus.
And not just in undergraduate research, it's all over the place. It's in academics, then start teaching. I mean, I have students all the time that say they're sick. Can they come to class by Zoom? It's just nowadays it's just accepted. All of our seminars, like Sharon was talking about, all of our seminars now for how to write an abstract, how to do all those are all Zoom accessible. We feed them so they come in person because every teacher likes to have the students in the room. We just do. It's just that's how we were trained. So we want to see them in the room, but we understand now that for example, a lot of our summer researchers, because we're in the middle of it right now, they're not even on campus. A lot of our summer researchers are doing, computational chemistry, and they're doing it all at home, wherever home might be. It might be in a different state. So we offer everything that way. One of the issues we had was we're reinventing everything. We went 3 years without doing our summer picnics, without doing anything in person, and now we're trying to remember everything we did in 2019. And I remember that. And oh yeah, we have to look at our 2019 emails to find the attachment, the PowerPoint we used back then. So it is new and different.
No, thanks for sharing that. My next question kind of builds off of this. This is a trend, right? This is something you're dealing with in real time right now. What other trends are you seeing in undergraduate research participation in your programs, or just not just participation, other trends in undergrad research as well?
I'll say we've made a deliberate effort at our school over the last 2 years to push more into the non-STEM fields. We now call it undergraduate research and creative scholarship. It's any kind of activity the student does that's not in the textbook, that's not determined by the professor. And we want to get the social sciences involved, and we want to get them going to conferences, and the fine arts and choreography. There's a lot of disciplines that have been historically underrepresented in our poster fair that we have. It's all the neuro people are there, the chemistry people are there, but where's the history people? Where's the anthropology? Where's the archaeology? We have some awesome teachers and students in those fields. So our trend now is slowly, we're really focusing on the non-STEM students, because the STEM students have a robust undergraduate research programs. We have REUs. We have a lot of opportunities for STEM students to be engaged in research and creative scholarship. but we have not been providing those opportunities. We've not been supporting financially, I should say, those students engaged in non-STEM creative scholarship. And we're working on that very hard.
Yeah, also same in terms of we've always supported all disciplines, but the participation levels have been lower in those areas. And so that is one of our goals, is to do more, excuse me, outreach in those underrepresented schools. I would say also a big shift for my office is prior to my coming on as director, again, Europe was kind of seen as a funding mechanism, and we really want to shift it not only to be the programming and support and mentorship and helping students and faculty to identify alternative funding sources. Our budgets are getting cut. Things are, they're not horrible, but they are getting cut. And so the amount of overall funding we will be able to offer will be going down, but our goal is that the students will not suffer, that the students will ultimately maybe get more money because we're trying to find donor sources of funding. And we have received some fairly large donations in this last year, and we want to really build that up, and we're working with our advancement office to do that. And also, we're in the state of California, we have a new opportunity that is offered to the University of California, California State System, and Community College System. It's called LAPE, Learned, I always forget what the acronym is, Learning Aligned Employment Program. It's a kind of work study program, but it's for research offered through the Office of Financial Aid. And so we have partnered with them. We piloted the program. Right now, about 40 students are doing it, where they're getting paid up to $3,500 a year to do research on campus. So this is another way that we are connecting students to get funding for their research that is not coming from my office, but we are making those connections and supporting it. And we're also looking at other creative ways so that we can help identify alternative funding sources, that it's not just based on our budget.
No, thanks for sharing that. It's imperative to find those additional sources of funding, as you mentioned. Now, I'm going to transition to something a little different. So we've spoken a lot with our panelists here, and Sharon mentioned a few times Engagement Hub to help with a few of their different programs, including the symposium. Sharon's going to share her screen so you can have a visual of what that looks like. So Sharon.
Yeah. So so this is our Engagement Hub, and you'll see it's organized. Let me just get my screens a little bit so I can do it. So the focus was the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And so now we've got 2 years of Engagement Hub content. So we've got our archive from last year, and then we've got this year's content, which I'll go into briefly. But just to show, when I was talking about, we're trying to think about other ways to creatively use Engagement Hub. And so there is, if we were to look at Europe opportunities, when we do find out about research opportunities on campus, we promote it through that. If you click on the more, you would see the different tiles of different opportunities to engage in research. And then we link to other places. Handshake is our campus, our division of career pathways, which is our career center, uses Handshake to advertise jobs, internships, research opportunities. So we link to them. We've got some spotlights, student spotlights, faculty spotlights, again, to try and highlight what our students are doing. And we're still trying to think, we want to really expand on this and see multiple ways to use it. But in terms of our Undergraduate Research Symposium content, just to briefly show you this, kind of like a program for the event. So we've got everything from, we've got our agenda and our schedule and how to use the site and, things like this. We've got, for instance, we had oral presentation showcase, where this was actually a competition where the top 30 students, basically any student could submit a video to be judged to present in person. And we had about 100 submissions, maybe a little more. And then top 30 finalists, we had 3 nights. So we had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 students each night. And we had them grouped by theme. And so each student that's a finalist has their profile with brief information about when their presentation is, and then when you click on their tile, it's got information about their faculty, of course, their project, their faculty mentor, their abstract, and then their video that they submitted to be judged in order to present in person. So this is just a way that both, we had these all loaded. Basically, the students would upload all of this information to InfoReady, and then about a week before our symposium, InfoReady migrated it to Engagement Hub so that people could see the content ahead of time if they wanted to get a preview, and then it lives on here. So if the students want to refer back and put it on their resume, or talk about it in graduate school applications or job applications, they can refer to that resource there. And then just to briefly show you the other, let's start here. That was for the oral presentations. We also had the majority of the students do poster presentations. So we had about 528 poster presentations presented in person, and each one, again, it tells some basic information about the time of their presentation, because we had 2 different sessions, the theme and their poster number. So how to find their poster. We have a little map here that shows where everyone's located. And then again, we've got information about their title, their faculty mentor, their abstract, and then their digital poster. So similarly, get a sneak preview ahead of time, but then also to have the resources there to refer back to. So there's probably a lot more that we could do with it, but that's kind of what we've been doing thus far.
Thanks, Sharon. I really appreciate you sharing how you use engagement. It's so impressive. It looks great. Those can also be searched, and you can use filters to find that as well. So one more transition. We've got questions that have been submitted. So let's get to that. We've got roughly 10 minutes left. Here, this first one it's a great question. What's your strategy to wrangle the undergraduate research efforts in the department and get them to you? Kevin, you want to?
Can you repeat that? To wrangle who?
The undergraduate research efforts in the department and then get them to you.
Oh, so they don't have to come to me. So they only have to come to me if they want some dollars, or if they want to be in the poster presentation. There's a ton of creative scholarship goes on that I don't know anything about. Maybe I see it at the poster presentation, but it didn't require any support from our office. I mean, some students are just gonna do creative scholarship. Some students are gonna do research with a professor, and they don't need anything from me. So if they don't need anything from me, no, I don't try to wrangle them into my office. We meet with the Dean's Council twice a year and make sure they know about the opportunities to send our students to other conferences, to send their students to conferences. Don't get me wrong, we don't send students to conferences to learn or to participate. We only send them to show their research, to show the fruits of their work. That's all we support. The department might send people to conferences on their own, but we don't. We're the Office of Research. So no, if they want dollars, they come to me, and they know that I have dollars that I will give them. And I'll feed them too. So anyway, I don't have any difficulty getting them to come.
And just the travel awards, that's actually new for our office. We just started it this year. And to your point, Kevin, same. It's to support if they're presenting their research. We also do have a caveat if they need to travel to a destination in order to do their research. So an archaeological dig, in some Arizona or something,
We do that as well.
But I sometimes forget about it because this is the first year we've done it. So, and in terms of strategy, so we have a faculty advisory board, and it's comprised of one faculty member from each school that we have on campus. So we're a school-based system, so engineering, social sciences, bio, etc. So we got 14 schools, plus we've got one other from our committee on teaching and learning. So there's 15 faculty representatives on the board, and we meet monthly, and we strategize with them. And as one would expect, there's varying levels of engagement. And so some of them are super engaged and they go out there for us and they fly the flag and they go to departmental meetings and all these things. And then others, might do a minimal amount, forward an email or put up something on their the TV in their counseling office, right? So we that's what we've been doing so far. I mean, of course, I also do communicate with departments and schools directly, but more so either with the faculty mentors who have already been engaged with us or academic staff, academic counselors and directors. More so my role has been a little bit more with staff and students. And then we rely on our faculty board and on my associate dean to do more of that faculty outreach. But we want to do more of it, and we need to do more of it, especially in the underrepresented schools. And I think there's still a lack of awareness. I think that might be different being in a large institution versus a small one. There's certain schools that are very aware of us, and to Kevin's point, like they come to us because they want the funding, they want the recognition. But I have heard from like our faculty rep in education, there's a lot of her colleagues that have never heard of UROP and don't know what. So I think we're still working to get that awareness and get the word out. And hopefully, I've had a lot of staffing issues in my office that has made it difficult for me to get out there more, but I'm hoping to get those resolved now so that I can actually help go to departmental meetings along with maybe the faculty rep, and we can get more awareness out.
I want to add something to what Sharon said. I do work with the Academic and Career Advisory Office because we have a lot of opportunities for work study students. We have faculty who have grants. We don't only manage students doing their own research. We also help students find faculty research where they can work in a lab or work with a professor. We do that through the Academic Career Advising Department for paid work study or paid. So anyway, it's another outlet.
No, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sharon. Good feedback there on how you're wrangling folks on campus. Got another question here, and this might be more of a question for me. Can InfoReady share pre-made competition templates for things such as competitive REU programs? So in InfoReady, there is a feature that allows you to share templates with other administrators, and not just within your institution. You can actually share templates from your InfoReady site with admins at other institutions. And so, for example, if you're part of a system, say the UC system, and your colleagues at another campus say, I don't want to create this by myself. Does Sharon at Irvine have a template she can share with me? You can definitely share a template with them. Same thing with schools in South Dakota. If you have colleagues at both institutions, or can share them with colleagues at other institutions that aren't even part of your system. Just as long as it's another InfoReady site, you can share those templates. Now, do we have any specific REU templates? InfoReady, we don't, but some institutions that have InfoReady where they're using it for undergraduate research may, and we do have a listserv, and we are also always communicating with admins at the institution, so we can put that question out there. Unless one of you two has an REU template that you want to share with the person asked.
I don't have an REU template, but we didn't create any of our templates from scratch. Linda used the listserv and got the templates and just modified them to say USD instead of UCI.
It's great, really easy. So another question we had, I think this one's going to be more for Sharon. Regarding Engagement Hub, that was mostly an asynchronous use of Engagement Hub. You weren't using that to help with concurrent live session support.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, I think of it as like icing on the cake. Like we still had the in-person event, but this was kind of our program to highlight that then we can use one of our we are trying with trying to get more donors and also corporate engagement and corporate sponsorship. And so that has been really valuable to then, because we did get some corporate sponsorship for the first time for our symposium this year. And it's like, we need to sell the value of why should you come? Why should you sponsor? Why should you table at our undergraduate research symposium? And so then being able to, these are the types of students that you will be supporting, and here's what they're doing. And there's, I think that has been valuable, as well as the students like to be able to refer back to, now they have something they can put on their resume. They can show employers, they can show their parents, if their parents couldn't come to the presentation, right? So but it is correct that we didn't do anything concurrently with the live session and engagement.
So follow up to that. That mean the question is, do you use InfoReady for judging? And my assumption based off that is no.
We actually did. So we had two different models. One was because of our oral presentations happened. So this is the first time too, we tried as a pilot, and I think we're going to continue it, having more of like a symposium week. So it used to always be one day, one event with oral presentations and poster presentations same day, but it just got to be too huge and unmanageable and diluted, quite frankly, because then people didn't have an audience sometimes, or it was very small because there was so much competition. So now we had 3 nights of oral presentations, and so for those we did set up the judging as a routing step in InfoReady, and we had each student had I think it was 4 judges. I think we actually, with some of them, I think we accepted 3, because I think we started with 5 and like some people flaked, right? So everybody had like a faculty, staff, alumni, corporate, and maybe one other category, I don't remember. And then as long as we had 3 reviews for each student, we went with it. And then we did, and that was one of the great things in InfoReady is you can download, it has all the scores and the rankings, and you can see numerically, who came out on top. And then we did have to look a little bit is that equitable? Is one judge, being more harsh than others? So we did have our faculty, somebody on our faculty board who has experience in statistical analysis, kind of took a look at it to make sure it was fair and equitable and things. And then, and then we did use it for that. For our in-person symposium, we actually used something else because it was just too unwieldy to use InfoReady on the day of the event. So, yeah.
Before I proceed, Sharon, I think we're losing you to another meeting on campus.
Yeah, I can see it's not quite. I might have to jump off when I'm looking at my phone if it comes on, but for right now, I'm okay.
So this is going to be for Kevin. This is our last question, and then we're going to close it out. What initial steps can be taken to create an infrastructure for an undergraduate research program without much funding required? Asking Kevin because Sharon said UROP's been around for 30 years at UCI.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's an excellent question. I'd like to know the answer to that myself. I inherited a somewhat siloed program, but we're a small school, so our deans fit around one table, and I know them all because we're a small town. They all live here in town, so it was just talking and letting them know I'm willing to work. It was, for us, it was not that hard because what we had before was our system before was cumbersome, and the fact that I was willing to take on some work out of their hands and do it for them helped. So yeah, I don't know. I just did it the one time. I don't know that I have a model that will work for everybody, but in a small school, you meet with people and find out what they want and then do it. Sorry, it's not more specific than that.
No, it's all good, all good. I think we've run out of time. We're at the hour. some people have to move on to other meetings. I do want to thank both of you. Great discussion today. Two different perspectives on the sizes of the institution, which I think is really helpful because universities and colleges come in all shapes and sizes, where everyone's in a slightly different situation. So thank you both. I do want to share a little bit more about some other events. Our next peer spotlight is in September, and it's on managing a strategic investment fund. So that's with Nina Bates from the University of Arizona. She's in the provost office. So it's going to be a really interesting webinar on how they're using InfoReady for that. So in advance, thanks, Nina. If you want to continue this discussion, if you have more questions, you can contact myself or my colleague, Max Dinerman. Our contact information is there. If you have support questions, contact our support team at support@inforeadycorp.com. And we would be happy to help with and anything any needs you may have related to this topic. So with that, thank you everyone for your time today. There's going to be a follow-up email with the recording of the webinar and a short survey as well. So thanks. Have a great day. I hope none of you work on Fridays, so you have a long 3-day weekend, but I know that's doesn't always happen, but I hope it for you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.